We now welcome to the podcast Dr. Marcedes Butler. Dr. Butler is the College Opportunity Learning Concierge at the Provost Office at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. In addition, Marcedes is also a guest teacher for the Clark County School District. Prior to these roles, Marcedes was the Director of Student Success and Advising in the College of Arts and Letters Advisement Center at California State University, Los Angeles, and the lead academic review and retention counselor at University of Southern California. Marcedes earned an EDD in Educational Leadership from USC, Master of Science in Counseling from Cal State Long Beach, a Bachelor of Art in Black Studies and Psychology also from Cal State Long Beach, and most recently completed a graduate certificate in nonprofit management from UNLV. Marcedes is viewed as a scholar practitioner and recognized for creating affirmative, structured, and inclusive environments that help students persist to graduation. Marcedes, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, with that bio, we're delighted to get the opportunity to chat to you, and I think we will have a host of topics to delve into today. But we always like to give listeners the opportunity to get to know you a little bit, and I suppose just in terms of how you came to work in higher ed and advising and how you find yourself where you are now. Can you talk to us a little bit about that journey?
Yes, it started in, I'm going to start in 2000, 2001. I knew I was going to college based on kind of the influence and pressure of my family. It was an expectation, but how I was going to get there, I wasn't sure. Thankfully for the TRIO program, EIS, they had a counselor that was coming out to the school. They connected me with an EOP representative, being a first generation college student, with helping the application process. And this mentor, Dr. Yvette Moss, who is still in my life current today, actually really took me through the whole process. And so what started as being an EOP student, they really preached and taught us to understand the catalog, make sure you know which classes you're taking. You have two advisors, your major advisor and then your student support advisor and EOP. And so I listened. And what happened is I started creating schedules for friends. It became like a passion of mine, making sure that my friends, along with myself, knew the requirements to earn a degree. And fast forward to really 2000, when I graduated, 2006, I was getting ready to move to Vegas. It's like a full circle moment for me right now. I was getting ready to move to Vegas. I have been traveling here, enjoying, and I was going to work in a casino. But Dr. Moss, she encouraged me to take an additional class in my graduating year. And I didn't want to. Honestly, I did not want to. But because she had helped me so much, I decided I'm going to honor her request. And it was like Intro to Student Affairs. And it was taught by Dr. Don Person. And she, at the time, was the director of the SDHE program, Student Development and Higher Education program. And it had a reputation out there. Like, I knew about the program. They only admitted X amount of students. It had its own little reputation. So I said, whatever, I'm going to take the class. I didn't know Dr. P was teaching it. I didn't know that one of the blessings would be preparing for the interview, preparing the application. Those were some of the tidbits that Dr. P shared in the class. Even that I didn't want to do, in all honesty, I can say now, because I was moving to Vegas. And so I said, well, you know what? I'm going to apply to the program because she's the instructor, right? I'm going to go through this process, but I'm not getting in. Not me, not the EOP girl who struggled. And why would they select me over all these individuals, right? So I put the application in. I go through the process and I got accepted. And I just remember crying. I remember crying because I really want to move to Vegas, where I'm at now. And I wasn't ready at that point. As Keegan would say, we were joking earlier with the theory, I was in over my head. I didn't know what to do. And so I, as you can see, went through the program. And really, that's when I think the professionalization of, okay, this is really a career. Prior, I felt like my student work study jobs, which were all in higher education, um, I was working on campus in kind of like an engineering recruitment type setting. Um, but I didn't really see it as a career. I wasn't sure, but getting accepted into the program, going through the master's program, which was very intense. SDHE was no notes for comps. I mean, it was just this training battlefield of higher education. And it was there that I made a commitment that this was going to be my life's work and that I would pay it forward to all the individuals at Cal State Long Beach that literally held my hand to degree completion, that this would be how I would pay it forward as a almost like a thank you for life.
Yeah, I like hearing about that, and especially, a lot of what you're talking about too kind of is like that imposter syndrome about, "Oh, should I apply? Am I good enough for this?" And then had you not done it, who knows what would have happened. But the fact that, you decide, "You know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put my app in and see what happens." And, a lot of positive things happen from it. So it's like thanks to your mentor, thanks to the TRIO program. And I think there's so even we just talk about trio programs, there's so many benefits to it, and it's sometimes students don't think I shouldn't apply, or once they get in, they realize people have my back and that they're here to support me and give me like this solid foundation.
100%. But a lot of it comes with support programs. Counseling is that negative, connotation to it, and just really stereotypes. And I even have friends who went through EOP at Northridge and they wouldn't say it. Like they got in on their own. And to me, I walk in my truth. I'm someone that tells my whole story. I'm comfortable with that. The ups, the downs, the embarrassing moments, because I believe that's how we connect as individuals, and that my story, I hope, can motivate others. And so, my hashtag is EOP to EDD. You counsel and advise students that end up like me, and the work isn't done in vain. And without EOP, I definitely would have not been a college advisor. I would have not made it through undergrad, graduate, and my doctorate. I called the same individuals since 2001 when I entered college, and I've never left. It's my life. And so it is key. The TRIO program, if you're working the TRIO program, a part of TRIO programs, they work. They work, and students manifest all of the conversations and the inspirations that are put out there. And yeah, you can go from EOP to EDD, EOP to a master's, EOP to any and everything that you want and desire for your life.
I love that hashtag. I think that's fantastic, and the willingness to discuss the struggles. Now, I suppose there are many different avenues that we could go, but I'm really interested in terms of your current role as the college opportunity learning concierge, because it's just not something that we have here in Ireland, that I'm aware of. So just really interested in what the role entails, and what the work is that you do.
Well, concierge is it's really advisor. It's a play on the casino, having a concierge help you with booking shows and rooms, and with creating this workforce development program. COP, College Opportunity Program, is a tuition reimbursement program similar. The most popular is with Starbucks and ASU. Where a difference with NSHE, the Nevada State of Higher Education, and MGM International Resorts is MGM writes us a check directly. So it's not, the usual process. You apply, you enroll in classes. Sometimes there's grade qualifiers. A, get a certain amount. B, C, you give them your report card. They even call them that now, or transcripts. And they cut you a check on the back end. The COP is different, where the students don't see a bill. And my role is unique within INCHI, is that UNLV, out of the 6 campuses that are participating, UNLV is the only one that has a concierge, a dedicated advisor to the program. And it is borderline to me. It's the same kind of work I was doing as the director of advising, because it was a new program. We joked that we were flying the plane while we were building it. And so I take helping students graduate. I take working at the university very seriously. It's not a joke. I don't just come here to play. I don't have time for anything but student success. And so I just hit the ground running. And so, I mean, just literally, I am doing everything from communicating with our senior learning concierge out of Inchy, with requests to MGM. I plan out all of their degree sheets, their persistence, so they know what they're taking. They know when they're taking it. I'm talking with chairs and deans on reserving classes and making sure that the required coursework is put online. I am working directly with the directors of advising here and the point of contacts within the actual advising centers, with building and strengthening that relationship to triple double check my work, my calculations. There's petitions, there's process and procedures that each advising center upholds. And so making sure that I'm staying in line with that. I'm surveying the students. I am counseling them through the whole online educational process. And so it is a play on academic advisor, but yeah, it's definitely been from the ground up, building the program. And my number one goal is really, I am into proactive, intrusive advising. And so I take care of everything behind the scenes. The only thing that the COP students at UNLV have to do is focus on classes, keeping a 2.0 for undergrad and a 3.0 for grad. All paperwork, administrative, all those barriers, calling financial aid, I'm calling them for them. I'm taking care of a lot of those loopholes so that they can focus on success.
Yeah, it almost seems like with your role, you've definitely created that strong foundation, and you have checks and balances in place to ensure that these students really do succeed and that they don't fall through the cracks. And so that's really amazing to hear. And speaking of UNLV, so let's say someone asked, "Tell me more about UNLV." How would you describe UNLV?
Go Rebels, go Rebels. Wow. My work mostly has been all besides UNLV at campuses in California. And so it I'm going to 2 years in the role. It's just finally set in that there are campuses that are student focused. UNLV is student focused, very hands on. I enjoy working with my colleagues. It's a fun school where there's 100 things going on. There's clubs, there's free pizza, there's movie night, there's paint and sips. There is 24-hour to me advising almost. I feel like advisors are answering questions at all hours, and you can tap in to 24-hour support, whether that's IT, going to the library. It's a place that is magical, honestly, and it took a while for me to actually believe it. We're talking with the directors of advising and just our advising administrative staff here. I tell them that I'm like, is this one of you guys gonna pull a trick on me and get crazy or something? Like, are we all literally working together and collaborating? You really want to help? You take your job serious? Wow. Advisors want to see students? Okay. And it is a place where I think, because there's not a lot of opportunity like California, right? It's a college on every corner. It's Nevada State and it's CSN, our local community college, and UNLV. So people literally, advisors, staff, administrators, I think compared to California, really have the time to hone their skills and really tap into helping students, because where else are you going unless you're going to relocate? I think that does play a part. But it's a magical place of student success, and they will do any and everything to admit a student, to fund a student, to help a student graduate, and I'm really proud to work at UNLV.
It's a magical place. I think that's a lovely turn of phrase, and speaks to how you feel about the institution, which is fantastic. I mean, you can feel the passion come through. N- if we take you back to your EDD, and maybe the decision to undertake a doctoral program, what led you to that decision, and what was the program like for you?
So I have this little thing where every institution I work at, I need a degree. The one thing that I do right in life is school. Um, and so I think I'm a little addicted. Um, to learning in the process and really utilizing my experience, especially the certificate, working full time, going to school full time, advising full time to enhance my conversations with students, especially my population now that are grown adults, they're even families and grandkids, and everyone's 35 plus. They're working 40 plus hours. It changes the conversation when I can say, I'm in school. Not only am I in school, I'm at UNLV, and so I was working at USC at the time, and I noticed that the leaders all had doctorates. The president had a doctorate, all the vice presidents, um, everyone with quote unquote power or influence had a doctorate. And at the time, I really wanted to do the PhD in psychology, but I've always worked full time, went to school full time, and that was a full time PhD program. And my lifestyle just would not allow me to stop working, and so I looked into the EDD, and I decided to go for it. A couple of individuals that I work with had graduated from the program. Some of the advisors on campus at USCB is one of the associate directors who really spoken to me and told me 3 years, be done. Just knock it out. My boss at the time, registrar now, Dr. Frank Chang, really allowed me to go back to school with helping me adjust my work schedule and speaking degree completion. Throughout the process of working, I had just taken on the lead advisor role, which was AKA director. So I was supervising, managing. I dealt with probation. When you deal with probation with at a highly selective school with different types of unique individuals, it comes with a lot. And so I remember filling out the application and I just cried because, and it actually makes me emotional right now, because I remember getting the application in undergrad, and I threw it away. It was 1,000 questions, a statement of this or that, and I'm just like, whoa, okay, okay. And so when I filled out the EDD application, I was like, why nobody told me it gets easier? It gets easier with time. It all gets better with time. And I filled out the application, went through the process, and it's always the naysayers out there, right? Because you tell somebody I got into the EDD program, excited. I went to some coworkers. You know what they said? Oh, what did they used to call that? They had a name for it, but basically, the USC employees that started any program at USC, but we're going to talk about the EDD, they don't finish. That was the whole thing. Oh, you're going to start, but you're not going to finish. And I'm like, well, I preach degree completion, so I'm finish. I don't know about that until I got there, and I was like, oh, this is a different level. You can do the classes. Everyone's listening, advisors, students, EDD, PhD, masters, bachelors. You can do the classes. I think the difference with the doctoral degree is that dissertation, and that's where I thought for the first time I ain't gonna be able to back up everything that I preach to students and my family and everybody. Degree completion, don't go to college, graduate, because I don't know. I can't, right? I don't even say that, but I can't. What happened is an unintended consequence. I the program is set up, it's 3 years. It's like a year and a half. You're doing kind of the general classes, leadership, diversity. And then the last year and a half is your concentration. There's a higher ed concentration. USC EDD is known for, pumping out K through 12 principals and superintendents. That's probably the most popular. And then there's a higher education. Well, after SDHE, no, I'm hired in out. I got the theory. I'm good. So I said I'm gonna do educational psychology. But what they didn't tell me is that year and a half cohort, my Tuesday night we're gonna disperse. They went to higher education because they had K through 12 background. And so I got to my new cohort of educational psychology students and classmates and was like, where y'all come from? Like, I didn't even see some of you guys in the class. And one of the my classmates, Dr. Aries Davis, she brought together a mastermind group. And it was women, and we got together. And long story short, that developed into a USC recognized club called Jenga. And it's Swahili for build. And what we did is the 8 of us, there's 8 women, 8 Black women. We kept each other accountable. We wrote together, we cried, we laughed together, and we said we're going to have 100% degree completion. Anything I do is degree, and then we ain't going to do it. We need to agree to 100%, and we actually got 100% and earned 100% degree completion through that partnership and that collaboration. And so I got the EDD. I got my director title at Cal State LA. Like everything just happened like perfectly and in the right timing. But to go back to your question, I think it's twofold. I always get a degree everywhere I work. I think it's just something unique with connecting to the campus, and I am hopeful that in my future endeavors that the EDD will put me into conversations and open up doors and allow me to apply to positions that maybe I can do with the master. So that's what led me to the EDD.
Yeah, it's almost like the group that you had was kind of like you were each other's motivation too to finish. But kind of going back to when you said like you put the app in, it's kind of like depends on who you tell, you might get some positive response or negative response. And it kind of goes to like the saying like crabs in a barrel,
Mm-hmm.
where when you put live crabs in a barrel, you take the top off, you might think the crabs are just going to escape, but crabs will grab each other, and hold each other down. And it's almost like that's kind of like if you tell someone and expecting like, oh, they're going to be supportive of me. And then like, don't you know the likelihood of actually getting the EDD, passing your classes, doing all the research? Don't you know how hard it is, how much money
Ooh,
it's going to cost?
it
You
is.
know,
And most, like I said, most people do the
yeah,
classes. You can go back. If you have a master's right now, you've
yeah.
been thinking about a program, go back. You can do the classes. You 100, it's the same thing as the master's on steroids. You're good to go. It is the dissertation. And even with that, you can get through it. But a lot of people don't. I mean, it's 50-50. EDD, PhD, business D, psych D. It doesn't even matter. The doctorate, 50% of the people won't finish the dissertation process, and that's where we get I always say, welcome to the 2% club. The 2% of the United States population with the doctorate is because of that final paper. And to my chairman, he rest in peace, Dr. Pedro Garcia, who really just held my hand to the finish line. And every time I wanted to give up, he was right there. He was right there. And without Jenga, without the academic review staff at USC, they started calling me Dr. Butler, and I'm just like, stop, like, and it gave me that motivation to keep going until it was, I could really use the Dr. Marcedes Butler at Gmail and not just have the email address. And so it as always, and with my story, takes a village, takes a village and multiple people to really hold my hand and motivate me across the finish line.
But again, like your willingness to share that story, I mean, that's like with our students, like it takes a village, and it's different people that you will meet along the journey. Um, Now I suppose like this episode, and this interview will come out on our episode in the lead up to NACADA's annual conference. And we were talking just beforehand. You've been to the international conference, so you have a lot of experience in terms of attending NACADA conferences. Maybe for listeners where this might be their first annual, or they're just interested in gaining kind of insights or tips, are there anything you would offer to people who will be attending the NACADA annual conference this week?
Interact, take yourself out of your comfort zone. The first way that I did that is I'm big on volunteering. It gives me kind of a safe way to kind of enter into the organization, meet other people that are volunteering, really kind of see the behind the scenes, and for me to step out my comfort zone once, even though most people say you're not shy, they would have never associate that with me. But when especially in a professional environment, I like to kind of watch and assess first, and then kind of see where I fit in. So I would say definitely step outside your comfort zone, going to those welcome meetings, interacting with the speakers before and after the sessions, connecting with individuals that are coming from your campus or campuses close to you, really putting yourself out there, because NACADA, that's another also magical place, organization where there's so many opportunities. And I found in my new role where again, everything is kind of prescriptive, that a lot of choices and options sometimes for students and advisors, it can become overwhelming. It's overwhelming. You can pick 30 sessions, and sometimes it's okay to seek out what others are doing, or to figure out, okay, this group of people are going to this session, and really take your time in figuring out uh, what it is that you want. But I would say I became a member 2009. Yeah, I graduated 2009. 2008, maybe. 2000, my program actually required you to be a member. I want to say 2008, 2009, and that's where it started. I just almost followed people around because it was new to me to be in a conference, and this is a real field, and this is my organization that's going to back me up with my publications and speaking. And when I go to the family reunions and talk with my friends, like, this is real, okay? This is a real career, going to college and staying there forever. And so let that guide you. And then over time, take the step to volunteer, and branch out into the sessions that you are really interested in. And after listening, what you're going to learn, and it took some time actually watching Matt, right? He's like a NACADA like superstar, at least in my eyes, is you will notice I saw his name multiple times. Like, being here is a full circle moment. And you don't notice, Matt, I saw your name multiple times. And we would say, what is Cal State Dominguez doing? Like, they're always on the conference agenda, also Hawaii. And what are they doing? So I would go into San Bernardino's sessions, and I'm like, they do a lot of stuff as a group. They do a lot of stuff as a team. And Matt, my first time actually presenting is due to you and your team in San Bernardino, because I was like, well, let me do it with my team. Like, let's write this proposal. And our first time, I actually have to go back and look. I mean, I presented so much, I have to go back, and because I want to make sure I quote it correctly, is in 2016. It took some time. Look how much time that was. I said I started in 2009, y'all, okay? 2016 is when I was working at USC, getting the EDD. With my team, we wrote a proposal, matching up with San Bernardino, because we did probation also, going against the current, implementing the appreciative advising framework as a tool to retain academic probation students, presented at the Region 9 National Academic Advising Association Conference in LA, California. So step by step, And that took a while for me to do that. And I really followed your model, Cal State San Bernardino's model, and we put the presentation out. It went crazy because it's always auto and all this crazy stuff happened, but we got through it, and from there the motivation was high, and we kept putting proposals out, and here we are, many years later. Still putting and sharing that information. So that would be my advice. Just get involved, step outside of your comfort zone. You can do it. It's a safe place.
And once you get that first presentation, it's pretty addictive. Then it's like, what else can I present on? Who else can I bring in from the team? And you've now presented, I think, a dozen times or more. And I think this could be good too, right? Because let's say someone's attending the annual conference, whether it's in person or virtual, and they are like, they get inspired by maybe a topic, a session they went to, and they're like, can I do this? Like, you talked a little bit about that proposal process, but maybe you can give a little bit more in terms of, if someone's like, how can I get started? And then maybe from the proposal stage or even when they're getting ready to present, any advice or tips? Because I know for one, and I think both of us agree, yeah, bring your team on because everyone's contributing. And it also means that everyone will have a piece in that presentation as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's the real professional development, right? I'm in this position because I don't put my professional development in a university's hand, a professional program. I take 100% full ownership. And when you become a supervisor or as a supervisor or manager, you have to be the change you want to see. They expect you, not the president. They come to you with professional development, right? And so how we got started, I go back to advising, right? You always go back to your advisor for everything, okay? My advisor, my EDD advisor, again, I use services, I use the writing center, I use all of the services, each and every program, every time, because I need help. And so my EDD advisor, Dr. Evelyn Felina, she is a part of NACADA, and she was helping to kind of develop the doctoral special interest groups at the time. And I reached out to her and I said, well, I put this proposal together kind of with Google, and NACADA has some examples on the website. Can you give me some feedback? And uh, she marked it up with all her track changes. And what I learned from that feedback is it's a template. That's what I call it now. It's a template. Okay, you need an abstract. You need an intro. That body really needs to be what are you talking about? What does the research say? Is it practical? Is it theory based? And what are the learning outcomes? What's the overall outline of your presentation? It can change, but you want to give NACADA and the proposals readers all the information up front so that they don't have to decide. And I've been a proposal reader also. That's one way that I give back to NACADA, and it's been a learning process of hearing and seeing those accepted and those not. And I'm like, it's the template, it's the research, it's the overview, it's the learning objectives, it's kind of the overview of what the presentation will look like. It's a real crafty title and abstract. And so that's what I did. Went back to your advisor. Go back to your advisor, right? The advisor helped me. She gave me the feedback. I put it in. Over time, you get better, right? It's almost addicting, almost like a tattoo or something, right? You put a proposal in and you just want to submit them everywhere, right? I stayed in NACADA because I feel safe in advising. This is my safe spot. This is what I do right. But I started to branch out because I realized it's a template. Oh my gosh, it's a template. You just change the information. And those that are getting ready to present, this is your first time, and that you can do it. Even though it's an advising conference, not like we would tell a student, you're the expert. Not everybody knows the information. No one knows what you do and don't know. So keep going. And practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. Record. If you're doing it virtual, record yourself over and over and over. um, have your students and your colleagues and your family and friends give you feedback, and then afterwards follow up. People will come. You always get one or two or a dozen that will come up and they have questions. You're following them on LinkedIn. You're following back up. You're responding to those emails that are saying, "I was really touched by this," or "You really motivated me," or "I didn't even think about this." That you're following back up with those individuals and thanking them for giving you that feedback. But you can do it. And it is a template. It's a process. It's a template. My goal into I think that was 2018 was to present at the regional, the national, and the international, and I achieved that goal with the template. And then it just like you said, Matt, it became addictive. It became so addictive.
I think that's really good practical tips for people, and also like then when you start the process, then setting goals, and like it doesn't have to initially be set attainable goals and then build on those. So yeah, no, I think that that's really good. I suppose one of the other areas that you're involved in terms of Nakata is your work with Region 9, or your role there. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Right, and this goes back to getting involved. I was always scared to take a leadership role. I was okay with volunteering, presenting, reading proposals, anything that didn't allow me to uh, really be responsible, right? Like have like responsibilities to kind of help lead the organization in the region. And I kind of fell into it in all transparency. Checking my NACADA email, there was a vacancy for Nevada liaison. And I thought, well, maybe this is supposed to be. I finally made it to Nevada after all the twists and turns. I'm working with the MGMCOP program that connects me to every campus, and I have a little window of time because this is the first time I've actually had a small population and cohort of students. I'm used to thousands and making it work, and I'm like, I have 100 students, and it's different. It really is. It took me a while to adjust, so I felt like I had the time, and I put myself out there. I applied, and I was accepted. And so this role is to bring really the Nevada related successes and concerns to NACADA and to Region 9. And I'm looking forward to leveraging my connections across campus, across the NCHI institutions to push forward the academic advising agenda. I think here in Nevada, with just the schools being scattered, I don't know what's happening up north. I have really no idea outside of the COP, and so I'm looking forward to bringing all the campuses together and making sure that all campuses like UNLV, thankfully, they pay for us all to have an NACADA membership because they're so great. But I don't know if that's at every institution here in Nevada. So looking forward to just making sure that all advisors have access to NACADA and making sure that the leadership um, here in the state are aware of what we're going through as academic advisors. You know, it's all student focused, right? Student, 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 student. But what about the people that help? We are people too. We are human. We need help. You need to tap in with us and understand what those students' needs are. Is coming through academic advising. Okay, we can give you the answers very very quickly on what needs to happen and what needs to change. So yeah, that's my role, Nevada State Liaison.
Yeah, so students first, but hey, the advising professionals that are working with these students need that professional development. They need those connection times. They need that collaboration. And one of the presentations that you've been a part of, one was titled "Collaborate, Share, and Learn: Creating Support Groups for Graduate Students." And that's also something that some of our listeners have wanted more about is, we hear a lot about undergraduates, a lot of what we read, the articles pertain to undergrads. But you kind of only see a little bit about graduate students. So with this presentation that you did, can you talk more about the presentation and why you feel like this was important to present?
Mm-hmm. Again, as you continue to go to the conferences and expand your network, you get more comfortable with additional topics. And prior, if you look at all the conferences, they stayed around probation and uh, student success. But I expanded to graduate students because this is my first time actually advising graduate students. It's been undergrad my whole career, and it's different. It's all the same, but the student is a student. That's my motto. And every student needs help, rich, poor. It doesn't matter, black, white, whatever. A student needs help, and a student is a student. But with the opportunity, with the conferences going online, is you have the opportunity to actually record your video. And so I talk twofold: one, to share my story about Jenga and creating really support systems, which I did, and it's an organization still helping students graduate to this day at USC, and also to in on tap in on the importance of advisors gaining additional um, degrees and information and knowledge. And so it was out of my comfort zone, honestly, because I kind of stay within what I know, but taking on graduate students from 5 different programs, 3 different colleges. I had to learn very quickly. And so that was my motivation. One, to kind of practice with this whole virtual record world that's out there. And two, to no, you're confident. You can step into your story as a graduate student and also advising students. And so that took time, but that's where that proposal came from. And it goes back to graduate students, doctoral students, and you know who else we don't talk about in NACADA? Advisors. So some of my proposals went to self and collective efficacy of advisors. How do we feel? Where do we get our power to help students? How do we get our power as a team to help students? Because it's 99% student focused. We're so selfless as academic advisors. We put the student first, and that's one area I am passionate about is hashtag we matter too, advisors, hashtag advisors matter too, that we take in a lot of that. And people like to, oh, it's different, this is transactional. We're doing degree sheets and we need to just refer them to CAPS and refer them to someone that's licensed. Sometimes they don't get to the licensed person. It's us that they come to. It's us that they trust. It's us that they tell their secrets to. And yes, there is a time and place where licensed professionals need to come in and when to walk a student, when to refer a student, 100%. I'm not saying don't do that, but I think because we don't focus enough on the advisor, we don't even know all that we're carrying, all the secrets. Had a session on the secrets, the stories, the trauma, the successes of our students that don't make it, especially with the, again, negative stereotypes of counseling, especially I think it's across all students, but you get into students of color, I ain't going to no counselor. What are you doing? That's why I'm here to see you, to talk about my personal and to talk about my academics. And so, yeah, advisors, development and mental capacity and space. Graduate students, doctoral students are topics we rarely see just across the board, but particularly with NACADA, and they're important. So if you're listening and this is your wheelhouse, put in a proposal. Put in a proposal. We need to hear from you.
I would imagine there will be plenty of listeners who are nodding in agreement with you right now. And to that, if you have dispensed loads of wisdom and loads of practical tips thus far, but if there are listeners who do want to get in touch with you, have follow-up questions, want to gain further insights, is there a way that they can do that?
Yes, contact me, especially if you are interested in submitting a proposal. We'll be having more information coming out about that through NACADA Region 9, but you can contact me at Dr. Dr. Marcedes Butler, DrMarcedesButler at gmail.com. I am at Academic Help 101. You can find me the most on Twitter. I just launched a Instagram, but I am accessible, and LinkedIn. You can find me, just look me up, Marcedes Butler. They might have it as Dr. Marcedes Butler, but you can definitely locate me on LinkedIn, and I am available to assist and to help motivate anyone along that professional development path, or looking to go back and earn that degree, earn that master's, finish that bachelor's, thinking about that EDD, that PhD. Why should I get it? Why not? I'm in it right now. I'm thinking about dropping out. Don't do it. Degree completion is key. I am here to help.
Mercedes, you are a tour de force. Listeners, it is almost 11 p.m. as we record this and I am absolutely buzzing coming off of this interview. So just want to wish you continued success in your career and to just say thanks very much for joining myself and Matt today.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. It's like a full circle moment for me. It's one of the highlights thus far of the year. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to share my story.